Against all the odds that are in the Warhammer world, humanity hasn't just survived, it has flourished. From shoreline to mountaintop, humanity is everywhere. And from every location that humanity has sprung forth, they have banded together to fight against the evils of the world. From the deserts of Nehekara you have Araby, and further north you have the knightly and honourable Bretonnians. However, whilst these two factions and many more have thrived in their respected worlds, none have come even close to that of the Empire. Their numbers unmatched, their technology unquestioned, and their strength unwavering. But to understand how the Empire has done so well, you first need to look at its history. So let's start off where it all began. Before the Empire was even founded, humanity had very troubling beginnings. A tribal species that had common conflicts between one another. When humanity first entered the old world, it is stated that they weren't going there because they wanted to, but because they had to. With many tribes fighting one another, many refugees were formed. Not only this, but the greenskin hordes decimated anything they could lay their eyes upon. This meant that humanity's growth had at best stagnated or at worst declined. And it was like this for hundreds of years up until the birth of a very special individual. According to the very unbiased and very truthful accounts of the Empire's cults, this baby boy was born under the twin-tailed comet, a sign from the gods themselves. This child was named Sigmar Heldenhammer, and he was destined for greatness. Born into one of the tribes of the old world, he grew up to be a formidable warrior. Not only this, but his diplomacy skills with other people and other races made him a great leader. After saving a dwarven high king, he was given the Galmaraz, but you may know it as his more common name, the Warhammer. His warrior and diplomatic skills made him into the first emperor. To the Empire, the acts that he performed made him into an ascended god. However, he wouldn't stay the emperor forever. At around his 50th year of being the emperor, he decided to leave. It isn't truly known why he left. Some believe that it might have been to return Galmaraz. However, no matter the reason for his departure, he left the Empire in a fairly good condition. He said that he believed that the Empire could run by itself without his help. And so as he passed through the World's Edge Mountains, that was the last time any humans saw him. And now, 2,500 years after the initial founding of the Empire, it has flourished. But that isn't to say it hasn't been without its challenges. Terrible emperors, wizard civil wars, and other chaotic powers wanting to destroy humanity. Even through all of this, the Empire has become the strongest force of the old world. They have done so well for themselves that they have even started founding colonies on the continent of Lustria. The Empire isn't just an empire, it is a symbol of hope to many. And this isn't just humanity that is being inspired by this hope, other races are as well. High elves, dwarves, halflings, and even some ogres. Although for the ogres they are typically hired out more as mercenaries. Nonetheless though, it's still impressive the Empire has managed to get the elves and dwarves to work together. Although this is thanks due in part to the current ruling emperor. The Empire is a monarchy. It is ruled by an emperor that is chosen from among the noble families of the Empire. These families come from electoral provinces, and as such the people that rule these provinces are known as the Elector Counts. These are the people who will both vote to decide if the emperor is doing well or poorly, and as it stands the current emperor is doing very well. The current emperor is Karl Franz, and he is a force to be reckoned with. He is regarded widely as the greatest statesman and diplomat of the old world, conquering his foes with sheer force and forging alliances between those that were thought impossible. In the most recent years, he has turned the Empire into a bulwark against the evils of the world. Riding upon his mount, the Griffin Deathclaw, and wielding Galmaraz, he has commanded his armies to many great victories. However, even though he is ruling the Empire very well, it doesn't mean that the Elector Counts want him to rule. As I mentioned earlier, the Elector Counts can vote as to who will be the Emperor, and so as such, some of the Elector Counts may wish to oust Karl Franz, at which point they could bribe and scheme their way into becoming emperor themselves. And whilst it seems unlikely that this would happen, it has happened in the past, and many a time the empire has nearly fallen into complete disarray because of it. However, as it stands, Karl Franz has and will be leading the empire into the future. However, even though Karl Franz is an incredibly good leader and has Galmaraz, he still needs an army to help hold his empire. The armies of the Empire are probably some of the most diverse and unique out of all of the fantasy world. You do see a lot of standard military weapons for fantasy. This includes swords, shields, spears, bows, arrows, crossbows, just to name a few. However, you also see a lot of technological marvels in the Empire. You have quite a few things such as cannons, mortars, and gunpowder weaponry in general. Whilst gunpowder weaponry in and of itself is quite unique, there is nothing quite like the awe-inspiring nature of the steam tank. This truly is a marvel of the Empire's engineering. With just one of these tanks in conjunction with a regular army, it is able to wipe out almost any opposing force. Another example is the Luminarch of Hysh. In terms of its technology, it is leagues behind the steam tank, but it makes up for this fact with its arcane essence. Instead of firing a regular projectile, the Luminarch fires a beam of light. This then gets concentrated into a beam of soul fire, which immediately vaporizes its enemies. Both of these weapons would make the Empire seem like a formidable opponent to anybody, and you would be correct. The issue with this though is that there aren't many of these devices left. For the steam tanks, the schematics have been lost. This means that they cannot be replaced, and as such there are only 8 left in the entire Empire, and the same could be said for the Luminarch. However, instead of it being a mechanical issue, it's a magic issue. Each Luminarch requires an orb of sorcery to operate, and each orb of sorcery came from the Lore Master of the High Elves, Teclis. He was there and helped found the first magic colleges for the Empire. As a gift for each of the leaders of the colleges, he gave a handful of these orbs to them. This was in order to help fledgling wizards gain their powers. This is where the orbs of Hysh came from, and with each Luminarch using one of these orbs, it's depleting the amount that they have, and by risking its depletion from the colleges, it could unleash a new magical essence into the world which would destroy mankind. So it becomes a question for them of, do they use it to protect their borders, or do they use it to protect themselves from what other magics may be? Either way, the Luminarchs of Hysh are becoming a rarer and rarer sight. But what isn't becoming a rare sight is their manpower. While swords and shields are a common occurrence in the fantasy world, you've got to keep in mind that a majority of these people are regular humans. No super strength, no super speed, just regular plain old humans. And they are well aware that they may not win a battle by just their blood alone, and so they may sacrifice their own lives to ensure that the battle is won. And their blood, sweat and tears has been poured into this empire, and it shows. And even though the average man in the empire may be weaker than most of the other races in the world, there are going to be those that channel the winds of magic to ensure that they are as strong, if not stronger, than other races. Within the Empire, magic is allowed. However, its usage is very strictly controlled. You see, to use magic and harness its powers, you are typically assigned into one of the 8 colleges. Each one of these colleges focuses on a different law of magic, and after studying a certain form of magic, you are probably going to be allowed to become a battle wizard. The college is headed by a supreme patriarch. It's a very similar thing to the Emperor, but it's just for the colleges instead. To become a patriarch of the colleges, you don't go through a democratic election. Instead, once every 8 years, the patriarch may be challenged to a duel, and whoever wins the duel becomes the new patriarch. This has been the case for many years. However, one time such a flurry of magic was used during one of these duels that it almost destroyed the entire city of Altdorf. This then led to a massive battle between the orders. Comets falling from the sky, fire tornadoes in the streets, animals of the wild coming down to destroy their enemies. And whilst this was stopped, some of the religious orders within the city decided to close the doors of the colleges to avoid further catastrophe. They were eventually reopened, but they had a close eye kept on them, and now the colleges have been producing some of the best wizards for the Empire. However, some of the religious orders within the cities are wary of what the magics may bring. Within the Empire, the main religion is based around Sigmar. This is because to them, Sigmar is a venerated god, and so as such should be worshipped. However, Sigmar may not be the only god that they worship. Citizens of the Empire may also worship Ulrich. Ulrich is their god of war, winter and wolves. Now both of these deities have a cult surrounding them, and even though these groups aren't elector counts, they still have a say in who is going to be the next emperor. Now there are many gods that are worshipped in the Empire, some of which are not even human gods. It is generally accepted that any god can be worshipped in the Empire. Now there are exceptions to this, one of the most common being not to worship any of the dark gods. However, with an empire so huge, this is going to be hard to control. Life of an average citizen in the Empire is dangerous at best. exist, and most of the time it's even from within its own walls. Due to how easy it is for a human to become corrupt with the ruinous powers, there are many chaos cults that roam the cities of the Empire. In Altdorf you have the secret yet seductive cults of Slaanesh. In Nuln you have the Khorne cultists who lie underneath the Imperial barracks. Diseases are spread frequently and willingly by the cultists of Nurgle, and a mass sacrifice is performed by Tzeentch's followers. This is because as big and as powerful as the Empire has gotten, there is still a quite literal rot coming from inside their cities, and so as such this is where the infamous witch hunters come from. Now witch hunters are sent on task in which to purge anything that is going to go against the Empire, mainly that of the chaotic powers. This makes their job incredibly dangerous, and as such they have become extremely cold and bitter towards almost anyone. Now a majority of the time witch hunters follow a code, and this code is meant to be a justice to those that have been accused of crimes. However, in their cold and bitter state, some witch hunters believe that they are better and so become judge, jury and executioner of the law. This has led to many viewing the witch hunters as nothing more than agitators, and whilst witch hunters will actively let it be known when they have found a chaos cult and show it publicly, there is currently one race that they are not going to speak about to the average citizen. Much like the chaos cults around every city, there is still going to be one secret that evades even the most cunning of citizens. People will hear scuttling, scurrying, squeaking constantly, only to be told that it's nothing but their hysteria that is stirring them up. However, unknown to many, including many of the witch hunters, there is a horror underneath the cities of the Empire. A secret so dreadful that if it were to be let out to the citizens, it would destroy the Empire from their fears. However, I'm going to save this for another time. The Empire is a powerful nation with a rich history and culture. It's an important part of the old world and a major player in the ongoing conflicts that plague the regions. From the technological marvels to the men that hold the swords and shields, the Empire has endured nearly all of the threats that could face them, and as such they have gained the respect of even the most stubborn of allies. And by the anvil, the hammer and the twin-tailed comet, humanity shall not falter, it shall not live in fear, and it certainly shall not buckle under the forces of chaos. And so long as Sigmar's words are still being uttered under the breath of man, the Empire will endure.